And we are back. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Respect the Craft. This is episode number 381, and I have the honor here of sitting down with a former TNA World Heavyweight Champion, Tag Team Champion, Legends Champion, Television Champion, and technically still Knockouts Tag Team Champion. We are here with the world-class Maniac, Eric Young. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing really good, man. 381. It's 8 is my lucky number. So there's an 8 in there. So we got that going for us.
There we go. There we go. I was looking that up this morning. I was like, oh man, we are at 381 now. It's just going. We're at 300 with Sammy, and now we're at 381 here with you. So there we go. We're just rolling. We're rolling here. But good. Before we get things started, I always want to ask this as the first question. Eric, you heard the name of the podcast. It's called Respect the Craft. So for you, when you hear that term, the craft, what does that mean to you?
I mean, for pro wrestling, it's all encompassing. The truth is it's not one thing or two things. I wish someone would have told me how many things I had to get good at inside the ring and outside the ring. The truth is the inside the ring is probably the smallest part. You know, your smallest and most focused skill set is that. And to find success starting from where I started, which the majority of people in our business started like I started from, nothing, from, starting at a, you're just kind of a regular person and you go to a wrestling school and then you start networking and trying to get booked on shows and you work your way up. And that's the most common, I think, the most common way to find success and probably the hardest. But yeah, it's all in companies and it is a craft and it is an art. You can look at it any which way you want it, but it is art in some form. And in all art, there are different forms of craft. So it's a cool title for a show, and pro wrestling is kind of all encompassing.
No, definitely. Thank you so much. So I do want to get into those earlier days of you, as especially myself getting to watch you early on, getting to see those early days as a member of Team Canada there. And then as most start to realize with Showtime, Eric Young, can you talk to us about those early days and how even that evolution from going from a more serious character like representing Team Canada, then we get to the more comedic side with Showtime Eric Young?
Yeah, I mean, Showtime Eric Young was my original name. That's how I was presented independently for the majority of my independent career. I was Showtime Eric Young everywhere that I worked. Then I joined TNA through Team Canada, and I felt like they didn't want me to really use that. I'm not really sure if there was thought put into it, but just kind of like Team Canada's Eric Young. But most of the wrestling world and people that I worked with and people that I had worked around the world basically at that point knew me as Showtime Eric Young. So it just kind of found its way back into the lexicon. I don't think it was ever contrived or thought of. It just kind of what happened. Obviously, the Team Canada Eric Young was my first time where I was able to tell people I did this for a living. Signed my first contract as Eric Young of Team Canada, and my second contract. So the first one was for 4 days. Me, Bobby, Petey, and Johnny all signed those same contracts for 4 days for the World X Cup. And then Team Canada, I mean, the talent in that group and the chemistry of that group, led by Scott D'Amore, was, kind of undeniable, I think. And I think TNA people and Jeff and Dutch and Vince kind of all recognized that, this was a group that really worked and really garnered a reaction. And then on top of that, we could all deliver in the ring. So, yeah, it was really I don't know if you could design a better start. Signing a contract like that with your, 4 of your best friends and starting trying to travel North America and travel the world as a group. It was picture perfect in my view.
No, definitely is. And it's one of those where you look at, just to hear you say that there was a 4-day contract, then turning into the second, that would be a more lengthy contract, to think of what you guys ended up creating. And also just that foundation of what we now know as TNA, because you look at that group and just look, it's really our cornerstones of what TNA became, especially yourself being one of those TNA originals. It's insane to see just what that did so many years later.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a bunch of important people, and The manager, Scott Demore, probably being the most important
Definitely.
of them all. As a person who ran the company and took it over when it was at a very low point and helped to build it back. And it's not that he doesn't get his flowers, but he should get more. And TNA right now is in a position that it's in because of Scott. And anyone that says anything different is not telling the truth or has something personal against Scott. I'm sitting here talking to you, and a lot of that has to do with Scott. And there's a lot of people that can say that in the wrestling business. So yeah, I mean, if you look at who the players were in Team Canada, it was massively important for the fabric of what TNA was and what it became and what it is still today.
I do have to ask. That's also we do see your return. You get to be a part of Team Canada once again a few years ago. Was that also a big deal with Scott Demore making that return happen, and even that being a thing at Slammiversary years ago?
Yeah, obviously a very cool nostalgic moment.
Yeah.
I think we called ourselves Team Canada. Wasn't going to be like a permanent thing. He wasn't going to work on every show, and it was in his hometown of Windsor. It was 30 minutes from the town that I grew up in. Windsor could technically be called as my hometown. I spent a lot of time there and wrestled there hundreds of times. So yeah, it was a really cool moment for me to return and have that opportunity to join the roster again and kick off the run that I'm on now.
Gotcha. There we go. So now from that, I do want to bring up another time, which again, I don't know if you have revealed it or not. And I think we're gonna get into it of playing Super Eric. So I'm not sure. Allegedly, I've heard that was you. Can you give us
Yeah,
any insight
I'm
on that?
pretty sure I'm pretty sure I admitted it a few shows ago. Maybe a couple months ago.
Okay.
I look, it's a wild time in my life during that time, and
Yeah.
doing a ton of kind of comedic wrestling, and kind of became that guy. I had never done comedy wrestling ever in my life before that. I just wanted a gimmick, I just wanted to play a character. I think that's always been my strong suit, and the thing that drives me the most is telling stories, whatever the story may be. And at that point, the story was I was paranoid and I was scared and I was worried. And then it was supposed to be a really kind of over the top. And I kind of filled that void of, the comedy role, which has always been part of wrestling. And, but I had never done it before. I just told them that I could, which was a lie because I had no idea. It wasn't a lie in the end. I obviously got pretty good at it. And that's what I was known for 8 or 9 years, and people would be talking about, comedy dream matches, me and Colt Cabana, which we've done a couple of those, me and Santino, which has yet to happen. I don't know if it'll ever be comedy versus comedy again, but you never know. Wrestling's a wild place. And that's the kind of the role that I was. And then it kind of bred into this superhero thing. And I'm a massive comic guy. I still read them today. I follow it closely, and I was the guy cheering from the sidelines when comic movies became popular. This is something that I've been saying. Like the stories are amazing, the characters are amazing. They're all there for Hollywood to use. And before, kind of the first Iron Man and the first X-Men of this generation, they were always kind of flops and disappointments. And I don't know if it was
Mhm.
the technology of filmmaking had to catch up to make it more believable or more palatable. But it did. And they're, obviously some of the hugest box office draws in the world now. And shows like Walking Dead, like I had read all the trades before that and forced my wife to read them. She's not a comic person, but she read all of them and became obsessed with Walking Dead. And then the TV show came out. It was cool to share that with her as a, not a fellow nerd, but kind of a fellow book reader, and saying, like, we knew that this was going to be an amazing TV show before everyone else did. So that was a kind of a cool thing. And being Super Eric on the show, and, having a cape and a mask and breaking out of handcuffs and jumping off the top of cages and kind of playing this superhero character was super fun. We had a lot of fun with it. Me and Frankie and the Prince Justice Brotherhood was very popular with Shark Boy and Curry Man. Yeah, it was just it was fun. I think it was short lived. It wasn't around for a very long time, but people bring it up all the time. So it's cool. I still have the mask, which is kind of cool. And yeah, it was another chapter in my story, which I really loved.
I think that's the biggest thing because even you mentioning it there, that it's one of those where it wasn't as lengthy, but still it's a memorable moment. And that's also thanks to yourself, again, what you were able to do and just those memories that you've left on many fans and just what that means for the history of TNA and also the history of yourself.
Yeah, and referring back to like what I said earlier, storytelling is my favorite thing. That's the drug for me. The physical part of it obviously is still the drug because I come from a sports background, but storytelling and that, you know, because of I guess my versatility or my willingness to do different things or my unwillingness to say no, has led me to tons of cool opportunities to do all kinds of different things. So I'm really happy about that.
Hey, you think about it again. If you said no to doing comedy, would we have this conversation right now? Or would
I might not be sitting here, is
yeah,
the truth. So
there you go. Again, you gotta sometimes just say yes and go with the punches, I guess, as they
that's
say.
it. Yeah, I say it when I do seminars or people ask for advice, and I just say, don't. I mean, unless it's something that really is against your morality or your belief system or your religion or whatever the case may be, don't say no because the truth is all of this is just made up. It's a TV show. It's not really who you are. Shouldn't be there. Sometimes that happens in wrestling. Guys can't separate the character they play on TV and the real life character. I've always been able to separate the two, and I think your ability to say yes can lead you to so many more better places than saying no. So I just say, don't ever say no. The world will tell you no enough. You don't need to say it too.
Agreed. And there we go. Especially bring that TV aspect. I brought it up earlier with your championship reigns. I have to talk a little bit about the reign as TV champion and this moment here that I think so many remember of just. Can you talk to us about that run as holding the TV title and even a moment like that where you fought CeeLo Green, even though it was D'Lo Brown at a convenience
Yeah.
store?
Yeah. It kind of just happened. A lot of really good stuff in the comedy world just kind of happens by accident.
Yeah.
And that version of Eric Young, I think I had tricked Gunner, Chad Leal, into as how I won the TV title. And this kind of in a promo, Eric Young was this kind of like crazy. I wasn't so much scared at that point, but just kind of like nuts and didn't understand anything and just kind of lived in his own world. And I had said that, well, the TV title can only be defended against TV personalities. And we did a thing where I super kicked Jason Hervey, who was in the Wonder Years and one of the co-producers and co-writers of the show, and just not even thinking or even knowing that him and Scott Baio have a relationship. I just, off the top of my head, I was starting to think of somebody else from that era, the Wonder Years era. And I thought of Charles in Charge, which was one of my favorite shows when I was younger. I super kicked him and I pinned him in like a trailer or something. And as I was walking off out of camera, I said, "Watch yourself, Baio. You're next, you punk." And he jumped up when the cameras were off and said, "Oh my God, I should call Scott. He would love to do something like this," and blah, blah, blah. And then it ended up that thing where D'Lo was at a gas station. And that was my journey to LA. And it was, that video was at a gas station. It was actually right down the street from Orlando, our Universal in Orlando that we kind of stop by all the time. And the CeeLo Green and D'Lo Brown thing was just the thing that I just kind of said, like it wasn't written or wasn't planned. It just kind of happened. And if I was crazy Eric Young, I could think that they're possibly the same person, which is, they couldn't look differently if they tried. So yeah, and that video, I don't know what it's at now on YouTube, but it had millions of views. It's been out there for obviously, 10 or 15 years. But
so many millions.
Millions. Yeah, millions. So it's
last night. I'm like, yeah, this just keeps growing. And it's one of those where it sticks. When I was getting ready for this, I'm like, I have to ask him about this moment. Like it still reminds me of just that insane run of just, hey, it sticks with people,
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about social media, because the truth is I have a terrible memory for this stuff. a terrible memory. I wish I didn't, but I do. And things like that will just pop up every few months. I was like, oh yeah, 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 right. And like that, I mean, I remember, and that was at a kind of a very pivotal point in my life. And because of that stuff, a producer and showrunner in the real TV world saw me, and that's how I ended up getting cast in Off the Hook Extreme Catches, the fishing show on Animal Planet. So again, don't say no because you never know what doors it's going to open.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be our theme for this episode here. Is just don't say no, kids. But as we continue here and go into a more serious route, I do want to bring up this that I've heard you talk about a lot, and that is your thoughts on fate, especially when it comes to your career and everything like that. As we talked about so far, it's really shown that fate was in your side here of becoming the Eric Young we talked to right now.
Yeah, I have it tattooed on, the underneath part of my left arm, and a bunch of my tattoos are kind of like my commandments. I'm not a religious person. I don't have any problem with it if that's your thing, and whatever you believe is whatever you believe, and those are the things that I believe in. I believe in fate. I believe in change. I believe in passion, love, respect, freedom. Um, and death, and it's something that chases us from the day we're born. Those are the words that are kind of tattooed on me, not as a reminder, but just as like that's it, how I live my life. And fate is, you always kind of end up where you're supposed to. The world's got a funny way of working itself out, and if you do things right and you're a decent person and try to do things that are good for you and good for others, then the world always will hand back to you, and often in a greater form. So it's I've always tried to live my life that way as best I can, and I don't want to be preachy about it, but that fate is something that I believe in.
So understood there. So now I do want to get into, especially now more recent time with TNA, we're starting to see more of the world class Maniac and what it's forming here. As I was again doing the research and making sure I was getting my memories correct because the memory is not all there. I blame some of the bumps from wrestling training. Um, but when we go to just what the world class Maniac has become, I even start to look at, did we see almost seeds when you did World Elite, and even that time of seeing what it could become, and then to what it is now.
Yeah, World Elite for me was really special. It was kind of like my first kick of the can of being like a leader of a group, and a kind of like a pretty prominent heel position on the show, and doing promos with Kurt and with Booker T, and Kevin Nash and Steiner, and kind of being showcased as not like an underling to them, but as an equal, and wearing a suit on television, which was always cool. And yeah, it was like kind of the start of me turning into a viable threat and someone that was figured in, and could be put kind of anywhere on the show. So that was a big deal for me, and I love that group and a bunch of people that I'm still like really close with today. And um, I don't think it ever got its chance to really take off like it could have. Again, another one that was short lived and it mutated into something else. And I guess maybe sometimes that's the curse of kind of being able to make things work, is sometimes you don't stay the course because it's not catching right away, or someone else becomes in charge and their idea is something completely different. That just happens in wrestling. It changes every single day, and just learning to adapt and roll with it, and change your belief system and change who you are and what you present and how you present it has always been important, because the business itself is constantly evolving.
Oh, definitely so. So now I do want to ask this, and I know again you talked about your memory, but let's see if you can pick one out of the career here that you can't remember. And I always say I blame this question on Alex Shelley because I created it to stump him. Let's see how it does here. And that is, if you can go down the Rolodex of matches that you've had, what would be one match that you say that defines your career?
That's so tough. I mean, defined, I would say the first time winning the world title, and I don't, I really like that match for a bunch of reasons. Was always and still am close with Nick Aldis, a guy that, like he was kind of stapled to me when he first started because he was very new and very young and very green. And I think, I think that he would say that probably I helped him in his journey. Certainly, he did the work and became the professional that he is now. A lot on his own, but nobody does it on their own completely. And I think him being stapled to me early on helped him become the kind of the wrestler that he is today. And then full circle, him getting a chance to drop the title to me and me winning it for the first time. And like it is a prop, but it's the truth is it's it's a massive honor to have a belt of a multi-million-dollar company, worldwide company, saying you're the flagship, whether it's for a day or it's for a week or for a month. It's a massive honor, and to me, no matter what happens, I'll be forgotten. Wrestling owes me nothing. 5 10 years from now, no one will. There'll be people that are watching wrestling that have no idea that I exist. But if you're a historian of it, you'll look on that list and you can't remove my name from that list ever. Even if TNA dissolves and disappears tomorrow, it's had this amazing run. I don't think that that's going to happen, by the way. It's maybe as strong as it's ever been right now. But the fact that my name is synonymous with something like that, and like you open the show saying I'm proud of all of them, the X Division, the tag, the global, the television, the women's tag, the beer drinking. I mean, those are all things that you can't take my name off any of those lists. So yeah, it's I think definitive would be the first time I won the world title for sure. And one of my favorite matches of all time.
Gotcha. There you go. Again, you definitely can. And just even this picture here, I wanted to bring up of just showing, again, 4 pillars there when you talk about TNA history. And I think just what all 3 of you have done for wrestling as a whole, not even just TNA, will definitely keep you guys in conversations for years to come, even after both of us are gone from existence. Like you can't touch wrestling without talking about, again, guys like yourself, guys like AJ Styles, Frankie Kazarian, Bobby Roode, Petey Williams, all that just truly showcased what professional wrestling could be in a style we might have not even considered.
Yeah, for sure. That picture is so cool. I don't have enough of those. Haven't really taken pictures. Everyone says I'll regret it, and maybe I will, but and I have those pictures in my head. But it's cool to see that. It's 2 guys that are like I'm still really close with. And I think what's cool about that is, I'm not talking about myself here, but Frankie and AJ is 2 people that are highly successful, are regarded as 2 of the best to do it, and 2 guys that are like I would trust to watch my dogs, and would trust to look after my wife or someone. If I passed away suddenly, good people over everything, and that's saying a lot for guys like Frankie and AJ. 2 guys that are so talented and left a huge mark on the business. AJ especially, I would say bell to bell, maybe one of, if not the best to ever do it. And to me, what's the most impressive thing about him? He's never changed ever. And he's still an amazing person, an unbelievable father, an unbelievable husband, just a great person. And that's in the end, that's the most important thing to me. I want to be remembered as that, because like I said, wrestling knows me nothing. I'll disappear and tomorrow or 5 months from now or 2 years from now or 5 years from now, and I'll be forgotten like we all are. And I want people to just to kind of remember that I was a good person and did right by the business that I love and left it in maybe a better place.
Well, there you go. I think that should be almost the main goal and end goal for everyone in this business. But with that being said, I also wanted to bring up, again, the minds that you got to work with early on, having veterans like Ken Shamrock around. You have Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. But now I feel like you're in the position where this is now your spot with young guys like a BDE coming up, a Leon Slater, and even more recently with Ricky Sosa.
Yeah, he's tall. He's tall, man.
I was looking. I was like, oh man, he's a lot taller than I expected. I was making a joke of Rich Swann. I was like, I could have sworn he was around that, and it's like, oh no, he's a lot taller. Like when you look at that, just that position you're in now, how does that feel to be able to help that next generation of TNA continue to grow the company that, again, you were of that foundation of?
I think that's a circle of life. When I was helped out by people like Ken, like Kurt, massively by Kevin Nash, who I'm still very good friends with, Sean Waltman, Road Dogg, like there was a moment where I was kind of in the NWO, I was in that group with those guys.
Van,
And
100%.
it's surreal, it was surreal at the time, and it's surreal to even say out loud now. But yeah, it's definitely a role that I cherish and I take very seriously. I'm not like stand up in a pulpit and yell at guys and say this is how we do it and blah 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 blah. But if people ask for my advice, or there's someone that I think it could improve in some way, or I could turn a light bulb on for them in some way so they could understand. And because the truth is in wrestling, you can't know what you don't know. And you could be, I think if you came to me 15 years ago, I would have told you I had it pretty figured out. And I can tell you now, 15 years later, I had no idea what I was doing. It's just the truth. And experience is the most important thing. And when you become experienced and you're around experienced people, you understand that. When you're younger, it's not so much, but the light bulb does come on eventually. And you realize how important it is. And I think in pro wrestling, it's the most important thing, and having tons of people on the TNA roster that have tons of experience is important for its success. And if those people aren't around, there's no one to show the people under them, or behind them in the experience, how it's done. And it's hard to explain. It's just, to me, it is the most important thing. And being in that position to help, people like BD and Leon and Ricky and tons of people, because I was helped in that position as well. And so it's a huge honor for me. Like I said, I'm not going to yell and scream or have these meetings and tell everyone I know what I'm doing. And because the truth is, like I said, is wrestling evolves. And it changes and changes every day, and I'm just trying to change with it. But there are like kind of hard and fast rules, I think, and things that are timeless and things that will work and have always worked and will always work. And focusing on those things. Physicality is obviously a massive part of what we do, but it's just a tool. It's just the hammer in our belt. And there's screwdrivers and there's measuring tapes and there's X-Acto knives and there's all these other tools that we have. The physical part of what we do is only one of those tools, and figuring out when to use that tool and how to use it and stuff is the most important part.
No, understood there. Eric, I want to be very much respectful of your time here. Thank you so much for joining us. One final question before we do go is, as I ask everyone here, and that is for Eric Young, what is the end goal?
The end goal is to do this how I like to do it. I even when I was 17, 18, first starting, that's a long time ago. I always said, if I can't do it the way I like to do it, or I can't do it and produce an effort that I would like to watch, I'll stop doing it. Like literally the instant, if it's something that like irritates me or it really hurts me to do it, obviously it's physical and, there's pain, that comes with the territory. But I mean, where like I'm concerned about being hurt, or that's in the back of my mind all the time, I'll stop doing it the instant I feel like that. I don't feel like that at all. And I think everyone will say this, and there will be people that say that I'm full of it or whatever, but I'm the best version of myself right now than I've ever been. I'm the most complete pro wrestler that I've ever been. I'm the most complete human being that I've ever been. I'm in the best physical shape I've ever been in at 46. There's nobody in this business that I can't keep up with. And I'll continue to do it as long as I feel that way. If I ever feel opposite of that, where I feel like I have to be pulled through it, or I'm hindering the product in some way, or, like if I had to work Leon and I'm like, oh God, I had to tell him no because I couldn't do something, or I didn't feel safe doing something or whatever, I would quit. And I meant that when I was, 17, 18 years old. And it's still how I think of it. I love it. And I respect it too much to be that kind of old guy that's being dragged around. So yeah, the minute if I don't like doing it, I'll retire. I still love doing it. I'm obsessed with it. Still to this day, addicted to it in every way, shape, and form. But the minute that that diminishes or goes away, that'll be it for me. And I hope that, like I said, people think that I left the business in a better place, and I helped some people along the way, and made wrestling better in some way. That's all I can really hope for.
Hey, again, for myself, and again, this is not just because we're having the conversation here. You definitely have, in my opinion, and just in my eyes, but I can imagine a lot of people that are going to be watching this are going to agree as well. Before I let you go, I want to remind everyone, if they haven't already, make sure you're following Eric on all of his social media there. Links will also be in the description down below. On Instagram there, the Eric Young IG. On X right there, at the Eric Young. Eric, thank you so much again for joining us. This has been such a pleasure. And everyone watching, as always, don't forget to be wise, be genuine, be real, be better people, respect the craft, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, everybody.